Hello, welcome to the ChitChat. I am Rebekah Reysen here with Jeremy Roberts, and today our wonderful guest is Dr. Sovent Taylor. Let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Taylor. Dr. Taylor is a native of Clarksdale, Mississippi. He is the director of the Health Professions Advising Office here at the University of Mississippi. He has a bachelor's in marketing, a bachelor's in psychology, a master's in higher education, an EDD in higher education. He has a lovely wife named Kalisha, two children named Sovent II and Purcell, both of which are amazing kids because I've met them before. So welcome, Dr. Taylor.
Thanks for having me.
It's good to see you today. And yes, welcome to the show. And we like this process to be all about you and the great work that you're doing here at the university. So let's kind of start off, and we'd love to hear about your role as the director of the Health Professions Advising Office. And we also know we're kind of in this day and age of COVID, so your role may have looked a little bit differently based on pre-COVID, post-COVID. But tell us about your role at the university.
So my job is basically to kind of direct and supervise our Health Professions Advising Office. And what our office does is we're a full service Health Professions Advising Office. So we advise students towards their health profession, their schedule, what courses they need as far as requirements for their professional school. We have tutoring, we have student orgs, we do application reviews, personal statement reviews, mock interviews. And so we really just do every single thing that our students need in regards to helping them get into their professional school. It's been a weird transition to doing that via COVID, because our mock interviews, in which we used to do in person, now we're having to work on digital mock interviews because a lot of the schools are doing digital interviewing this fall. And so having to put that plan together, and the busyness has not stopped. I feel actually more busier now than I was in the office, because somehow the blurred lines of what 8 to 5 is run away when you're not working in the office. And so I feel as though people expect a response 24 hours a day. Yeah. So I'm sending emails routinely at midnight, 11 a.m., 2 a.m. sometimes. It just seems like it never stops.
Yeah, I definitely know how that goes. With us being off campus and switching to the model that we have, we've got academic consultations whenever students are available, because now they've got a different schedule. So with working in health professions and all that y'all do, what would you say is the most rewarding part of your job?
Oh, the students. I love working with the students. They're phenomenal. I can't say enough about how hard they work, and I always tell them I thank them for trusting me with their dream. They want to be a health professional, and it's a difficult road, and they come in and they trust us with their dream. And so for me, it's just really getting to see them work from freshman year all the way through to that acceptance letter. That acceptance, when that comes in, there's nothing greater than having your student walk in your office and say, I got into my school, thank you so much. And you're just so proud of them and so happy for them. It's why I do it. That moment is worth any stress or anything that ever comes with the job. It's worth it to see those students so happy to move on to their dreams, and just, it just makes me feel like a proud papa.
Right. And talking about students, let's talk about you as a student. So as Rebekah said, you have 4 degrees from the University of Mississippi. Could you tell us about your process as being a student? And you basically double majored as an undergrad. So could you tell us a little bit about that? And then why did you go into higher education? Because this is a platform to talk about higher education. So what was your process or thought behind, I really want to go now into the college setting?
Well, like most students, I came to school pre-med, not because I was interested, but because someone said, hey, you're smart, you should be a doctor. And I said, okay. And so I got here, and like many college students, you find out this isn't for me. I wasn't enjoying the classes. It wasn't something that I found myself interested in. And so, I switched to psychology just because I enjoyed the freshman psychology class. And once I was doing that, I always thought about business as well. So I took a couple of business courses. And before I knew it, I found myself just doing both. It took a lot of hours to do both those degrees because they were in different schools.
Mm-hmm.
One was in the College of Liberal Arts, one in the School of Business. And so there were some crossover classes, but not a lot. I ended up graduating undergrad with over 150 hours
Wow.
in order to make both those degrees work. But I liked both. And at one point, I thought about industrial psychology. At one point, I thought about going corporate. And at even one point, I thought about doing clinical psychology until I shadowed in a mental health clinical setting. And I'm a happy guy. And it devastated me to see people who were suffering with those mental illnesses. And I knew I couldn't find myself to do it. And so after that, I still didn't know what my passion was. I took a strong interest inventory in the Career Center, and the top thing on there was education and business. And it said I like people, and those two give me a high interaction with it. And so I was already in the business school, so I just went to work in a corporate setting in corporate America with Sherwin-Williams Company. But the whole time I was there, although doing well, I was promoted twice in a year. I was doing well there. I just really felt like I wanted to come back to Ole Miss. I said, what does it take to work at Ole Miss? And I did a little research and found out there was an actual degree in higher ed for people who wanted to work at a university or community college setting. So I applied to the graduate program and never looked back.
So it's a place that you feel like you really, I mean, you're obviously making a difference for a lot of students. And this is shown through your enthusiasm, your work ethic, and also you've won a very huge award, which is the Frisk Student Service Award. Let me read you the description for those who are maybe not familiar with it, which of course anyone on campus would be familiar with it. But according to the Ole Miss website, this award recognizes one faculty member and one staff member for going the extra mile and unwavering dedication and service to students. Examples of exemplary service include student guidance and mentorship above and beyond those expected of faculty and staff as part of their job responsibilities. So, and having known you for a long time, I know you do work hard. You balance a lot of things, and you're very passionate about helping students. So, you are an expert in student services and helping students. So what is your philosophy of helping students?
My motto is anything they need, I'll give. And it's just, you can't work in higher ed if you're not passionate about working with students. And I don't want anybody to walk through my doors and say they can get help. I may not be the person that can actually help them in that situation. There's definitely more specialized people on campus to do certain things, but I will do whatever I can to help any student that walks through my doors. I don't care where they're from, what their background is. If they are on this campus, then they get my help. That's the way I approach it. Because, I love people, and I just think everybody should be nice to each other. I've always thought that. I don't understand anybody being mean to people. And so for me, it's just a student walks in, a student needs help, a student gets help. They get my 100% effort every time they walk through my door. And I will give that until I have nothing else to give. And then I guess I better retire at that point.
So health professions is under the College of Liberal Arts, correct?
That's correct.
So how does that model work? I know you work with biology and you've got math and you've got everything else, but health professions is really focused to get students into health professions. So how does the model with you with y'all under liberal arts make everything happen?
I always joke and call liberal arts the parent corp. They are extremely supportive. We see students from all majors. So although we're housed under the College of Liberal Arts, our students are from every single school or college on campus. And so we we will see students any major regardless, because if they're a health profession student, then they belong to us. And so it doesn't matter what program they fall under, or if they're in the School of Business or a School of Applied Sciences or college, or School of Education. It doesn't matter. If they are in a health profession, they'll see us. So although we're falling under the College of Liberal Arts, they're not selfish in saying, oh, you only see College of Liberal Arts students. We have the latitude to help all of health professions in any field, in any school on campus. So it's really, we're under the College of Liberal Arts, but we're basically for everybody.
Yeah. Okay. Very interesting. I know working with students on campus, we have a lot of students who are health professions. So with other stuff that you do on campus, besides being the director of health professions, you also teach.
I do.
So with teaching, you've taught some of our probation students in the past. You've also taught several other EDHE classes. How do you go from director to professor?
I try to keep my same personality, regardless of what I'm doing. And that's usually, I try to stay pretty happy. I tell people it's much more work for me to be unhappy than it is for me to be happy. And so, it's different in that when you go to lecture in a class, it's different from that one-on-one meeting that we do with our health profession students. And so that's the biggest, most difficult part, I guess, is kind of trying to reach everyone in a class, knowing that some of them are taking this class for a requirement and is not very interested in the subject matter, but just trying to reach everyone in the class. And so, I enjoy teaching a lot. I enjoy trying to bring a subject matter to life, and make it fun, because one of the things I always said is I never want to be a boring lecturer, because I hated boring lecturers when I was in undergrad, and I never wanted to be that. So I try to make my class informative and entertaining, and hopefully my students think that. They've said they have in the past, but they could have just been being nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's a lot to manage. Director, student questions, teaching, of course, family, all kinds of things happening all the time, I would imagine. And I know in Academic Support Center for Student Success, we will interact with a lot of students, a lot of parents. And when students, have a crisis, their parents also have a crisis as well, because it's a whole family dynamic that comes into play in that kind of situation. But I know with health professions, there's not only an emphasis probably on maintaining, adequate marks, but also you have people who are wanting to go to medical school, so a lot of 4.0 students. So when you have parents who are like calling and saying, hey, how do I help, my child, or what can the university do to help my child, or what advice do you have for me? What kind of advice do you have for parents working in your line of work?
Well, so, we have, surprisingly enough, we have very few parents that interject themselves in their students. A lot of those students are highly motivated, and so they don't typically require the parent interaction. But a lot of times we tell the parent at orientation, we got them. We don't worry about it. We will take care of your baby. We know you're dropping off your baby to college, and you're trusting that, they'll be taken care of. I can assure you we'll take care of your baby. And the ones who worry initially find out pretty quickly that we love our students and we do take care of them. And so we haven't really had many issues with parents, other than trying to get them not to overreach at freshman orientation. That's when they really get kind of heavy-handed, and we don't let them come in advising meetings. So they're like, well, why we can't come back? I'm like, we got to let your student, start making their way towards adulthood, because they're going to be looking for that. We've heard horror stories of parents showing up at medical school interviews, right? And that is not, that it keeps the student from getting into medical school at some places, because they're saying you're not independent enough to be separate from your parents. We need independence of thought when you come to medical school. And so, little things like that, we're trying to grow them in every aspect of their life. And so, we'll talk to parents and reassure them, that, we have their students' best interests at heart, and we want them to be successful just like they want them to be successful.
Yeah, and it shows that you have a passion for students, working with them, advising them, making sure they're on the right trajectory to get to whatever their end goal is. So if you have a student in your office, what kind of advice do you give to your students overall? The ones that are doing good, the ones that may need a little extra oomph to get to that next level, but what's something that you say to them to keep them on that track, to keep them motivated?
To run their own race. One of the things that happens to people in this society is the ideal of keeping up with the Joneses, or hearing what other people are doing, or, Sally did this and John did that. The truth is, I always use the Olympics as kind of a metric. If you've ever watched the 100 in the Olympics, the fast race, everybody calls it, those runners never look right or left. They come out of their block and they keep straight, and then they get to the finish line and see what happens. And I tell them, I said, if you're looking left or right or behind, you're going to fall on your face. The goal is to remember that your path is your path, and you can't worry about what everybody else is doing. People often get different places at their own pace. So don't feel obligated to run somebody else's race. Just run your own. And I promise you, you'll be happier focusing on yourself than you will be focusing on other people.
Yeah, that's some solid advice right there. Students, are you listening? That is something you need to know.
Right. I mean, because I think there is that essence of, sometimes students are putting pressure on themselves to maybe get everything done in a certain period of time and have it look a certain way and have it all packaged up. And I know that can be a lot of pressure. And there's a lot of students that may take more than 4 years, or may switch their major, maybe not once, but 4 or 5 times.
We even find, Rebekah, that students are, pushing for other people. And, they're doing majors or health professions for other people. I had a student one year come to me her senior year and say, I don't want to be a doctor. I don't want to be a doctor. I really want to be a nurse. And I said, well, that's fine. We can definitely do that. Had the grades to be competitive for medical school. The issue wasn't aptitude or GPA. The issue was she was told that she needed to be a doctor because she's too smart to be a nurse. And by her parents, and she didn't want to do it. And she finally got to her senior year and she confessed that to me. And I said, well, you can't live for your parents, and you're the one that have to do the work. You're the one that has to do the job. And let me tell you, you'll be much happier in your life. And I said, and ultimately your parents just want what's best for you. So, we're going to do nursing, and she's a nurse right now. I ran into her a couple of weeks ago out at a store with our mask on, obviously. Yeah. And she was so happy with her job. She's so happy being a nurse. And, we just have to make sure that we support them and let them know that we love mom and dad too, but our focus is them. And we want to make sure they're happy with what they're doing. So, it's tough to choose what you want to do the rest of your life. It's not an easy decision. And so we want to make sure we guide them, even if they change paths along the way, because, you find out, you grow, you come into college one thing and you leave another, you grow and find out some things that you want to do the rest of your life. And so we try to make sure that we're supportive and that they don't feel, oh, I'm still not going to graduate in 4 years. I must be broken. No, you're not broken. You're figuring out what you want to do, and then we're going to get there. It doesn't matter if you're 23, 24, 25, or whatever it takes to get there, or 50, just as long as you're happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And knowing too, the kind of investment that it takes, to invest in students, it's a lot, and it comes from a passionate side of things. You do this because you want to do this, and you work hard because you're a hard worker, but you also want to help people. And I would imagine, when you're so dedicated to your career and you've got a family as well, there's this probably introspection that you have about, okay, balancing work life, family life, doing stuff on the side, that you that you like to do in your spare time? Not that you have a lot of spare time, obviously, but how do you manage work-life balance? Do you have any tips or strategies?
I try to be in the moment wherever I am. And so I always tell my wife, I tell my wife this all the time, I work hard and I play hard.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to do that, I got to be in the moment. So if I am if I am playing, I am playing. I'm not trying to think about work or anything like that because, I want to give 100% of my focus to the task at hand. And so when I'm with my kids, I don't think about work. And it's because I have to turn that brain off for work in order to really appreciate my children and my wife, because the truth is time moves fast. My son will be 13 in a couple of weeks.
Wow.
I have a teenager. My daughter is 8, and I can remember bringing them home for the hospital. I can remember how little they were. And if I don't live in the moment with them, those, life is short. These years get by you pretty fast. And so, it's a hard thing to do for a lot of people. And I just had to learn how to do it. Focus on the task at hand and cut everything else off until you get back to it. So, I always say I have this stopping problem. If I start on a task, I have to finish it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll start on it when I know I have time to finish it and just kind of motor through. And that allows me to really make time for my wife and kids because, they are very supportive in what I do, but I also want to be there for them and love on them and enjoy them as well.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Definitely.
So it's and we have the lightning round of questions that we thought we would ask you because we like to ask our guests some things about when they were in college and what Dr. Taylor's life was like at that time. So tell us about your freshman year. What was that like? Just kind of paint a picture for us. What was Dr. Taylor like his freshman year of college?
It was interesting. I'll date myself here by saying I came to college with a pager, and there was cell phones were just now shrinking down from Zach Morris's big phone to the little phone. And so I got to college. It was fun. I was excited about college. I lived in Deaton Hall my freshman year.
Mm-hmm.
And which was right across the street from a Union, so that's a win. And so it was really interesting, that transition from high school to college. But I was ready for it. I was ready for college as far as the social aspect. My nickname kind of took root in college because nobody wanted to remember how to pronounce Sovent. And so people are always like, "Oh, do you have a nickname?" Because nobody wanted to remember that. So literally all my friends called me Suave. Suave is my nickname. And, that's everybody calls me that because nobody actually wanted to remember Saviet when I was a freshman. And so I made a lot of friends. I got to know a lot of people. As you can tell, I like to talk. And so I met a lot of people, and it just kind of took off from there. I'll joke and say the reason it'll be hard for me to ever leave Oxford is because all my friends always come back to Oxford.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's so much easier to see everybody at one fall football weekend or on a baseball weekend or double decker. I'll be running around seeing 20, 25 people that have come to town and that I haven't seen in a while. So it's really nice to be here. But freshman year was pretty fun, actually. It's also when I had to learn time management skill, because that GPA took a hit when I played more than I studied.
Right. Yeah.
Yes. Which is pretty common freshman year, right?
Pretty common.
Think about how many things, to adjust to. I mean, college can be amazing, and it can also be a little overwhelming at times. So
I underestimated how much time I needed to study. That I think that's the biggest thing. You think, you go to your lectures and you're so used to absorbing that in K-12 and not being, spending 20 minutes on going over the materials in high school, that when you need to spend 3 hours going over the materials in college is very different. And you learn it the hard way.
Yeah.
So I've got a 2-part question for you.
Okay.
First part is, who would you say was your favorite college professor and why? And then, if you could go back and talk to them now, knowing what you know about college, about the university, what would you say to them?
Well, God rest his soul, Dr. Billy Barrios.
Okay.
Dr. Barrios was my psych professor in college, and he was a phenomenal person to sit down and talk to. His perspective of the world, his calm and soft demeanor. I love Dr. Barrios. And I would say a lot of his methodology kind of influenced me today, because he was always so patient, and he was fun. He never made class boring. He walked in and he would carry a garbage bag in class, and you're like, what are you doing with this garbage bag, Dr. Barrios? And he would just talk about, going on a journey and needing all your tools, and this garbage bag represents his suitcase, and all your tools we're going to pull out of the bag. And I love Dr. Barrios. He was fantastic, and I do wish that he was still around on campus for me to pop into his office.
Yeah.
Great guy.
Yeah, we all have that one. Every time we talk to anybody, there's always that one person who they can pinpoint and say, this is the one who truly made a difference in my life, especially here at the University of Mississippi, because we have so many people, not only in faculty positions, but also staff positions, alumni that come back and support our students for different things. So, I mean, you're all three. You're faculty, staff, and alumni. So you support students in every facet of what we're doing. So those listening to the mentor questions, those always, add a smile to my face, because I can think back to mine and go, yeah, I've got some pretty fond memories of those people as well. So I love hearing the different stories from people about their favorite person.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the reason I chose psychology as a major. I happened to stumble up in his class, and I said, this guy is fantastic. And so I took every one of his classes I could get my hands on, because he was just so much fun to talk to.
Right.
And he was so calming all the time. He was just a relaxed personality, and me as a happy person, I respond well to people who show care and who are calming, and I enjoy that. And so he was just a great professor, great guy, and it was always fun to see him on campus even after I started working here.
Yeah. And it's such a powerful position, being a professor and an instructor, because there's that planting of the seed that, I've had so many great teachers in my life. And sometimes, like, I know in the time when somebody's inspiring me, but then later on, like 10 years down the road, I'm like, oh, I use this all the time. And so, yeah, to have someone, and then I would imagine you use a lot of those things in your own practice, as a director, right? When students come in, you're a calming presence. When somebody's like, oh my gosh, can I do college? You help them to realize they have a lot of tools in their toolbox that they can use to persist. So, so the people who've inspired us, and now you're inspiring a lot of people. Do you have any final thoughts or things you wanted to share, advice to people who are watching?
Well, I really just want everybody to know that, the people on campus in higher ed are here because we are passionate about helping students. And don't ever feel like you're alone on this campus. If you don't know anywhere else to go, you can come to my office. I don't care if you're health professions or not. Just come see me. We'll talk out anything. I often have students walk into my office that says, Dr. Taylor, fix my life. and, and and I'm like, okay, what's going on? You know, and it's just, you know, I get a lot of references from students say, Dr. Taylor, I'm not a health profession student. I'm not in your major. I'm not in your field. But my friends love you, and they told me that you'll tell me the truth and that you care. And so I just wanted to come and talk to you. Mm-hmm. And so I have no problem with that. I do love students, and I do want to help. And so if there are any students out there that are struggling with anything, come see me. You know, I tell my students in class, I go over this early in class. I know, especially around midterms, I talk about this all the time. When it gets stressful, and I say this, if it's getting stressful and you're struggling, come see me, come see somebody. If you don't know where to go, come see me. And if you don't think anybody wants you around, I want you around. And so so there's always somebody who cares and wants you to be here. And I'll be that person if you need me to be. Come see me. I'm happy to help anytime, any place.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for all of your hard work, your leadership, inspiring people on a day-to-day basis. And you heard it here. Dr. Taylor joined us today. Thank you so much. Rebekah Reysen, Jeremy Roberts, and of course, Dr. Taylor for the Chit Chat. Please stay tuned. We'll have another great guest next week. And in the meantime, you can find us on social media, Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter, and Instagram. Good to see you. Take care.
Bye.